Hello everyone, and welcome to Gnocchi 101. We're gonna make a pasta, but it's a potato pasta from northern Italy. So when we think of Italy, we think of pasta, macaroni, spaghetti, things like that. But in the northern Italian regions, it's quite cold and potatoes grow really well. So they have better access to, say, potatoes than they do to a lot of the flours that you would use to make pasta. So they make a little beautiful dumpling that is considered a pasta called a gnocchi. Gnocchi, G-N-O-C-H-H-I or C-C-H-I. And we're also going to use leftovers, which you might have some mashed potatoes in the fridge from a dinner the previous night, and it's a perfect time to make some gnocchi. So let's get ready to make gnocchi by doing our scavenger hunt, our utensil scavenger hunt. So it's super easy recipe, and not a lot of utensils to need. You need a knife or a spatula or a dough knife. I'm going to use a spatula so I can show you that this is something you might have in the house, super easy. Cookie sheet or a sheet pan. That's to put your gnocchi after they're done. You lay them out there. Then a kitchen knife, a cutting board, or if you don't have a big cutting board, a nice clean flat surface, and forks. I'll show you what the forks are for in a bit. Now your ingredients, again, super easy. 1 cup each of cold mashed taters. That's right, cold mashed potatoes. And 1 cup of all-purpose flour. And then as needed, because you're gonna need some for kneading the dough. We're gonna work this dough just like bread, if you've seen any of my bread videos or if you've been in class with me. And then 1 egg, just 1 egg, that's it. And this makes a lot of gnocchi that you can freeze and have for later or eat right away, all right? So we're gonna get right into it. Are you ready? Because I'm ready. All right, we're gonna start by putting out 1 cup of flour on our board. And by the way, to cook the gnocchi, you're gonna have a pot of water, salted water, on the stove. This is how quick this goes. We're gonna make this. I already have my pot of water ready to go because we're gonna make the gnocchi and we're gonna go right into cooking it, all right? So, we wanna take a small fork or a fork and make a well in your flour. Crack that egg in it. I'm wearing gloves because it gets kind of fun, kind of messy. Rubber spatulas for later. You just want to start mixing your egg into the flour. See how I'm doing that? Once you got the egg mixed in pretty well, you can take your fork and scoop out your mashed potatoes into your flour mixture. Now I say 1 cup of flour, and this is again why we need extra, because your mashed potatoes might be a little bit more wet or a little less wet, and it also depends on the type of potato that you're using to make your mashed potatoes. There are some potatoes that have higher moisture contents than others. Some are drier, and this is where the spatula comes in handy. See this? I'm gonna chop it like this. We go slow so you can see. And I like to use this spatula because it has a nice flat edge for scraping your board or your surface. Still kind of looks like mashed potatoes with flour and egg, which is, funnily enough, exactly what it is. Now, if your potatoes aren't overly seasoned, you can put some salt and pepper. You can even put some Parmesan cheese into this, but my potatoes were nice and seasoned, so I don't need any of that. Now, once it starts coming together, you can start creating a motion like you would a bread dough or regular pasta. See how that's coming together? And see how that spatula comes in handy? Don't worry about that fork sitting to the right of the board. We're going to be using that in just a few minutes. All right. Now, one of the tricks to making gnocchi is finding that nice balance of flour. The least amount of flour you use is better because then your dumplings aren't heavy. The flour tends to make the dumplings a little heavy, but you still need some. You see how that's sticking to the board? Now I'm going to use my spoon and I'm going to sprinkle some flour on it. Right? Super easy. Can you believe that this is almost done? Now, if you've seen my other videos, the bread video particularly, we talk about the procedure for kneading. Kneading is taking your dough, in this case a pasta dough, a potato pasta dough, and folding it back on itself and pushing forward. This creates gluten strands, and gluten strands are what's going to hold our pasta together. All right? So I want you to knead it for about 5 minutes, and you can see why I wear gloves, because even when we're finished, because I don't want to use too much flour, I might still have messy hands. And that's okay. It's kind of fun. All right, you see that? So typically I would knead this for a couple more minutes, but it's really coming together beautifully. I'm going to set this off to the side. What you would do is you would take that and you would wrap it in plastic wrap, throw it in your refrigerator for about 20 minutes. That's going to relax the gluten. I made some pasta dough earlier, some gnocchi dough earlier. I call it pasta dough, and it is pasta dough, but it's potato pasta dough, right? All right, so this is what I mixed up earlier. Now that's been set in the refrigerator for 20 minutes or so it's nice and tender. All right, we are going to cut it into 3 logs. Depending on how much pasta dough you make, how much gnocchi dough, depends on how long the log is, or how you want to work it. So now we're going to roll it out, kind of like making bread. See how I go like that? I haven't hired anyone to dub in cool sound, so I made my own sound there. I don't know if you noticed. See, that's why they call it gnocchi. See, watch, gnocchi. I know you're saying, Chef Quinn, now you're just being silly, which you're right, I am. So I like to put it in the refrigerator so that when I roll it out, the dough doesn't spring back on me. And if the dough springs back on you, that just means your gluten's not very relaxed, which is completely fine, because then what you can do is just set it up to the top of your board and roll out the other ones and come back to it. And by the time you come back to it, that gluten will be nice and relaxed, and you'll be good to go. All right, so we made 3 ropes of the pasta dough. Now, you can take either a nice knife, a kitchen knife, or you can take the spatula you've been using if you have a nice sharp edge, and you just want to cut them into little bitty dumplings. All right. Now at this point, your gnocchi are done. You can take some flour, put it on your cookie sheet, dust that around, and you can throw those on. Those are ready to go. But I still have this dinner fork right to the left of my, to the right of my board, to the left in your view, and you're saying, Chef Quinn, what about the fork? You said we were going to use it, so let's use it. Okay. So this is how you use the fork. You set your dumpling on there, and then you take your thumb and you push, okay? And then you roll it up gently. See that? Push, roll gently. Push, roll gently. Push, roll gently. Takes a little practice. Certainly it's fun. So what this does is it creates these little grooves that, one, are very cute and attractive, but also these little grooves hold sauce. So if you make like an Alfredo or something that's a little thick, and I'm gonna show you this in a minute, you make that sauce, and those grooves will hold that sauce right onto the gnocchi. All right, so I'm gonna take this off, and I'm gonna show you, we're gonna cook these gnocchi right here. So have water at a nice rolling boil. That's important because you don't want your gnocchi to stick at the bottom. Next, we want to have a pan on. So I'm going to put it on a medium heat. I'm going to let that get a little hot. I'm going to take a sip of tea. Very important. All right. Now, what do we got? 9 gnocchi. All right. 1 little bit of butter. You don't need a whole lot of butter. What we're going to do is we're going to brown the butter. Okay, browning the butter, it's caramelizing it actually. So if you think of the flavor of caramel on a dessert, this is a savory style of doing this. What it does is it creates flavor. The more you brown the sugars in the butter, you get this really beautiful flavor. I'm just moving it around. So while that's melting down and gonna brown, we're gonna cook the gnocchi. What you'll want some sort of strainer. This is the strainer I have. If you have like a basket strainer like this, you can use that. Whatever you have. But you want to keep, for this dish that we're making, you want to use the pasta water, so you don't want to strain all of it out. Think about it. We're taking our gnocchi and we're dropping it in salted water, heavily salted water. So you've got flour going in, you've got egg, you've got potato, you've got salt, you've got pepper, all these seasonings. This right here has a lot of flavor. So you can see that our butter is melting. Now we're going to take these gnocchi. See what I did there? Just a little bit of flour in my hands. Because these will stick a little bit, but that's okay. Because again, if they're sticky, that means you haven't put too much flour in. Now you can give the water a little swirl. This is gonna go real quick for you guys. This is like a minute. These cook in about a minute. Now if you see our butter, we're starting to get a little bit of a brown. Not too much yet. Now, I also keep a bowl handy, just in case my gnocchi are fully cooked and my butter's not brown yet. I'm starting to see a little bit of brown here. See that? That's the sugars, the impurities in the butter that are starting to brown, and that's creating flavor. And who doesn't like flavor? All right, my timing is going well. So you're saying, Chef Quinn, how do I know when these are done? Well, when they come to this, when they float to the surface, that's when they're done. You see that butter? We got some nice browning going on. Now turn your pan down low. You don't need it too hot, because when we put these in there, we don't want the water to splash up. Water and oil don't mix when it's hot. All right? See how they're floating, everyone? And see those little nooks and crannies we got there? These are gonna be good, tasty gnocchi. So I put my gnocchi into my bowl. All right? And again, this is for safety. We got nice brown butter now. Turn your pan away from you. Take your bowl. And all this is for safety. Boy, I wish you could smell that. Just that butter. Gonna take a little bit of pepper. I'm not going to salt it, and I'll tell you why. Because a little spoon, you can use tongs or a spoon, whatever works for you. I'm not gonna salt it because there's salt in the mashed potatoes. There's also salt in the water, so you don't wanna go too crazy with the salt. Now, remember I said there was flour in here from the pasta. This is gonna help thicken our sauce. I know you're saying, Chef Quinn, this is crazy. How can just a little bit of butter and water and pepper be so tasty? I'm telling you. So now we're gonna turn the heat back up and have this reduced down a little bit. Now, have some cheese ready. Now, whatever cheese you want. This is a Spanish cheese called Manchego, but Parmesan, Romano, there's so many different cheeses to use. Mozzarella, if you like mozzarella. Any sort of cheese you want. It's all yummy. All right, I'm gonna get this out of the way, and I'm gonna move this forward so you can watch what's going on. Okay, so now we have a heat. We wanna reduce that, and you look at that. It's starting to thicken because there's a little bit of that residual flour. There's flour in the dumplings, in the gnocchi, and that butter and water, when it reduces down, that helps thicken it too. So you don't need a whole lot of sauce because the gnocchi are so yummy. All right, so that's it. And again, you can use these with tomato sauce, with Romano cheese, with all the different cheeses. You can make an Alfredo sauce. So this is it. This is our gnocchi, right? And of course, being good chefs, we always have to taste it and make sure it's good. So let me try it. They're like little pillows. They're so beautiful, so tender, so gorgeous. You're gonna love it. Super easy. We just made gnocchi in like 10 or 15 minutes. You can do it too. All right, friends, if you like this, comment. If you don't like it, comment. If you have questions, comment. Talk to me soon, because I miss you guys. Take care.